Hello, parents and guests. We know a place where nobody's crying, nobody's worrying, just laughter for you to listen, learn, and love. It's called the Eagle Talk Show, and we will take you there.
Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, welcome to the Eagle Talk Show. Bienvenido al Show de las Águilas. And now, please stand and welcome your host, Micah Arreano.
Hello, oh my God, look at those smiles. Wonderful. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Thank you. Bienvenidos al Show de las Águilas. Welcome to the Eagle Talk Show. Phenomenal show today. We're focusing no more secrets. We had to break those secrets. We're going to find out what are those secrets today. Vamos a enfocarlos ahora de no más secretos. Today our show focuses on sexual child abuse awareness. It is, to me, it is like an epidemic that spread out in our society that takes the innocence from our child. So our special guest today on the first segment are going to give us information about the signs, the signals that us as parents, as community need to be aware of it. So ahora vamos a hablar, hoy vamos a hablar acerca cómo prevenir el sexo sexual contra nuestros hijos que ha robado a nuestros hijos y a nuestra comunidad. So, antes que comenzamos el show, vamos que aprender y a escuchar con amor. Before we start the show, it's about listening and learning. But we do that with what, DJ? There we go, everybody. There we go. According to the Crimes Against Child Research Center, sexual abuse affects 1 out of 4 girls before the age of 18. 1 in 6 boys, according to them, affects them. In 90% of the cases of sexual abuse, the child knows the perpetrator. 30% is their family member. Wow. La información va a estar en su pantalla para leer la información, los estudios. Tenemos aquí invitados from Austin Independent School District Chief Police Eric Mendez. Hi. We have Kate from Center for Child Protection. We got to break the silence. We got to break the secrets. Kate, what is the role of the center?
So the Center for Child Protection is actually a nonprofit organization. Typically, a lot of people confuse us with Child Protective Services. We are not Child Protective Services or a government agency.
People get confused, right?
Exactly. It's very confusing. We have very similar names. But we are a nonprofit that is that works in Travis County in order to reduce the trauma to children and to families as they're having to go through the system. We're part of a national model called a Children's Advocacy Center, and so our role in that, again, is to reduce that trauma and work directly in the investigation and prosecution of crimes against children and really bring in all of those different agencies that are responding to these crimes under one roof, so that instead of having a child have to tell their story over and over and over again, they can tell it once, but in front of all of those agency partners together in order to again, let that child move towards healing.
Eufemia, bienvenida. ¿Qué es el Centro para Niños?
El Centro de Protección para Niños es una organización no lucrativa donde pueden venir niños y son entrevistados. Esos niños han mirado una violencia doméstica en su hogar o han sufrido del abuso sexual y ellos vienen al centro para platicar de su historia para que no tengan que seguir platicando su historia vez tras vez y reviviendo esa trauma que ellos pasan.
Sí. Chief, welcome. Wonderful. Being supported with our organization and the school district and in the community. Give us, what are the signs parents should know on this topic?
The signs for child abuse are almost difficult to explain because child predators they prey on children. They don't want their activities known, and so it's very difficult at times to determine who a predator is. But some of the signs that kind of help things to consider, right? It may not necessarily mean they're a child predator, but it's things to consider. You need to consider whether or not an individual is becoming very close to your child may have childlike tendencies, may want to constantly play games that the children play, may want to start giving gifts to your child that are more than just what would seem normal. And so it's hard to see the face of a child predator because it could be anybody. You have to look for certain signs. How close they're becoming to your children. What's the purpose of them being close to your child? You know, showering your child with gifts, you know, wanting to spend time with your child that would seem abnormal. Instead of a family unit spending time with the child and you, they're wanting to just be with your child alone. Those are kind of the signs you look for.
And I think the studies have shown, I just mentioned earlier, that 30% is family members. And I think they know that. You know, I'm a survivor of this situation because I take it to heart. I think we need to break those taboos in our community, in our families. And I'll share in the next segment a little bit of my experience. But, you know, what the center offers, Kate.
So we can offer a variety of services as far as those children that have been involved in the system. Again, we provide that forensic interview, so a child only has to go through that investigation, those questioning once rather than multiple times. But we also can help children and families after the investigation process takes place through therapy, as well as through medical services. We are partnered with Dell Children's Medical Center, and so they actually run a clinic from our office to treat children that have been severely physically abused or those children that have been sexually abused. By far, the majority of the crimes that we see are crimes of sexual abuse, and that is true no matter where you are in the country. It is a huge problem, an epidemic. You mentioned the statistics before, and that's very true within Travis County as well.
Eufemia, what can parents do? How do we help parents? ¿Cómo le podemos ayudar a los padres?
En la manera que yo pienso que podemos a nosotros ayudar a los padres es en ayudarlos saber cómo educar sus hijos, sus hijas sobre sus cuerpos, porque nuestros cuerpos es un cuerpo sexual, somos mujeres, somos hombres, y es todas las partes de nuestro cuerpo, y hablando con ellos sobre el correcto nombre de sus partes privadas, es una manera en que le podemos ayudar y tener esa constante comunicación con nuestros hijos, comunicando sobre cómo te va en la escuela, cómo te va cuando estás con tu tío, con tu tía, cuando están en la guardería de niños, cuando están en sus cuartos, cuando se van a dormir, en cualquier momento que haya oportunidad que abremos la comunicación, especialmente entre los latinos, que platiquemos sobre qué está pasando en el mundo de nuestros hijos.
Y eso yo creo que es difícil para culturas, tener una plática, comunicación es importante. It's different cultures to bridge that communication. Chief, what tools, how can we educate parents?
One of the things that I always talk about when we have incidences occur, is that it's very important for parents to ask more in-depth questions of their children instead of just saying, how was your day?
Exactly.
I mean, the child, for fear of being in trouble, is just going to say it was okay or it was fine. It's more in-depth. We want parents to really get into the communication. What did you do today? What did you do during the day? What did you have lunch? Who did you have lunch with? Who did you talk to? And so you want that communication to really open up.
And you're building relationship and communication. And I was talking late evening last night at my house. My guest, that will be the next segment, was, social media is great to, market our organization, business, whatever. But when we having dinner, sit down, turn off the TV, and build those conversations. Like we used to do way back Thursday.
Way back before
Throwback Thursday, whatever they call it nowadays.
Way back before cable when there was nothing to watch on TV.
Exactly.
And it's really important that communication take place. You want your children to have good, strong relationships with adult figures, but you want to make sure that as a parent, you know what those adult figures are and what they're doing. And so you want to have those conversations with your children multiple times a day, when they first come home, at dinner, before bed. How was your day? Just kind of re-emphasize to find out what's going on. Because while you want your child to be trustworthy of the adults around them, you really want them to trust you as a parent and not be afraid to come to you and talk to you.
Right. Kate, educating parents about the child's, is developing their bodies.
Absolutely.
Why so important?
Just as Chief Mendez said, it's all about communication, and the communication doesn't stop with just those kind of border conversations. They have to go beyond, and even when it becomes a little uncomfortable, what we have to realize is, kids when they're young is they're not born with embarrassment. That's something that we breed onto them because we as adults become embarrassed about certain topics and certain words. And when we make it that taboo conversation, which is what exactly we're doing, especially when it comes to sex, it makes it difficult for a child to ever come forward if they ever need to.
And it's interesting because, I'm a world traveler. Everybody knows I travel to learn more about cultures and education. And Europe is a very different culture. And we still have to learn to more. I think America is a very young country. And at a certain time of the day, they have programs to really educate parents. And they really and the teen pregnancy is decreased because that awareness is there. And I think our country still needs, America still needs to that educate, breaking those taboos, having those conversations. This is the body, this is a hand, and this is my genitalia. You got to talk those conversations different level with a child. Because when you say, well, you don't call that hand a cookie, it's not.
Well, exactly.
So having those, and it's sometimes having this conversation today, parents, and our audience and the viewers right now, is, wow, we got to break that silence, because I believe, Chief, and maybe I might be wrong, I mean right, but I think that the perpetrator knows that child, the family is not aware.
Right, and they look for those ways to address the child or to, the word is groom, right? Child predators groom children to prepare them to assault them, to sexually assault them. And so they groom them in a certain way, knowing that there is some misunderstanding or lack of understanding amongst adults with their children on how to communicate. And so they look for those ways to groom them so that the child is more willing to participate or not understand that they can say no. And so that's what happens.
I like grooming. Share with me that word, because it happens if people are not aware.
Exactly, and what you're trying to lead me to is just understanding that masturbation is part of normal sexual development. And
they're probably going to call the studio, and I'm ready to answer those calls.
I know.
Because it's culture and it's taboo, and let's not talk about this, but in our society we have the increase of teen pregnancy. Let's have conversation, parents. Right.
And we have to recognize that kids, the masturbation piece might not be a sexual act to them.
Right.
It's a coping mechanism
and
for a lot of children, just like sucking your thumb might be.
Yeah, exactly.
And as children are growing up, they're curious about their bodies, they're curious about other people's bodies, and so the more candid we can be with children when they're young and teaching them the proper words, teaching them about that normal sexual development and not be afraid to talk to me about that, the more likely they're going to come to you if there's ever an issue or a concern
having
that
that
they might
open
have.
Communication. Fabian, share with that, because that grooming, that I call it, people need to know about that.
Lo que puede pasar es que es algo como simple como esta pulserita que tengo puesta, que representa el thank you, y me pinté las uñas azulitas para que la mirara, representara el abuso sexual. Entonces, y cómo proteger a nuestros hijos, pero lo que puede pasar es algo simple como con esta pulserita, yo puedo quitármela y puedo venir y decir, Pat, mira, te voy a dar esta pulserita azulita, nada más que no le digas tú a Rosita. Entonces, pasa unos 2 días y luego viene Pat me dice, y viene Rosita y dice, oye, Pat me dijo que le diste esta pulserita, ¿dónde está la mía? ¿Qué sé yo ahí? Yo sé que ella no va a mantener un secreto. Entonces vamos a voltear, ok, esta vez se la voy a dar y ella no le dice a Rosita. Entonces, ¿qué sé yo de ella? Que ella sí mantuvo el secreto. Son cosas simples así, donde uno no pone importancia, pero debemos de poner importancia en esos detalles.
Kate, what's the duration of the service for the center for individual family or individual child?
Sure. So our involvement with the investigation, that of course just will continue as the investigation progresses. But even after that investigation is closed, if a case is closed, if a child has been involved in that system, and again, even if that is now closed, they can receive therapy services from us for the rest of their lives if that's what they need. Yeah. And so we work with each and every individual child, but what we have to recognize is in working with a child, we're working with a family. Right. And so we provide these therapy services for free and work with each and every individual child and family to figure out what those needs are and how we can best meet them.
Chief, when a child reports, even now just to authority, an outcry, what's the process, or what parents should do?
So typically an outcry occurs to an adult. We teach our children when something happens, when someone does something to you, you go to an adult. Your parent, your teacher, your counselor, a school principal, we want them to tell someone. Typically, the adult is who notifies the law enforcement agency about the incident. So they become, the person who first hears it becomes the outcry witness. And so we would gather all the information about the incident from the outcry witness. Here in Travis County, in cooperation with the Center for Child Protection, we do not interview, the officers do not interview or talk to the child. We want that child to only have to relive that experience once. And so we want the center to interview the child with their forensic interviewers. And so we start the process. We take the initial police report. We notify our investigators. The investigators or the detectives work with the center to set up a forensic interview. We work with the parents to get the child there to tell their story. The officers will watch the interview from another room.
Okay.
So that they can gather notes and information about what the child is saying, and then they'll conduct the investigation. We work with the center, we work with Child Protective Services, we work with the District Attorney's Office who prosecutes the child abuse cases, and our detectives will contact all the witnesses involved, including the suspect.
Okay. The duration, el tiempo que puede un niño, una familia de servicios con la organización de ustedes.
Pues el tiempo puede ser el tiempo necesario que se ocupe. Por ejemplo, hay familias que vienen para que son entrevistados los hijos y luego regresan los padres para tomar nuestras clases de padres protectivos y también regresan para terapias para la familia entera o para el niño que ha sido víctima del abuso. Y yo personalmente he visto niños en el proceso que ya tienen más de 5 años, algunos 8 años, algunos el tiempo es, algunos meses, dependiendo de la necesidad de la familia. Es lo que nosotros ofrecemos nuestros servicios.
Vamos a ir para el público ahorita. Si alguien tiene una pregunta, alguien, levante la mano.
¿Se cobra para las personas? Is there a charge for this fee?
The question is there a fee for the service?
No, we do not charge. We are a non-profit. No cobramos. Todo es gratuito con nosotros.
Does the organization provide workshops to the community?
So my role at the center, I'm the education services manager, and so my role is to do just that. I like to say I'm the dog and pony show of the Center for Child Protection, and I go out and provide trainings to teachers, to child care providers, to nurses, to therapists, to anyone who works with children, to parents. Really, I just say anyone who will listen to me, and talk about these issues, talk about identification of abuse, not only sexual abuse, but physical abuse, neglect, talk about what that looks like, those warning signs, how to respond if a child were to come to you and make an outcry, make that disclosure of abuse, how you should respond in that moment. Reporting, what the law says about reporting and sort of how you need to move forward with that. And also just about the investigation, the piece of what happens after that report is made, what happens.
Right.
And then, of course, prevention. So especially for parents, talking about what safety measures you can put in place to best keep your child safe, and also what language do you need to get more comfortable in talking about, and kind of help you find that language so that you can have more of an open communication with your child. And so that is a resource that I offer to the community. Free of charge, of course.
Free.
And
Es gratis, free.
And happy to come out and do trainings, at schools
You've done
or organizations.
trainings in the school district.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. So
and we
we
invite
started
other administrators and parent support specialists to call, even with the chief of the department, just to come and have a conversation with this parent, because that's what we do. That's what we're here for as leaders, to educate and break that silence, break that secret.
Exactly.
Secret. Femia, ¿qué es lo que hace la organización? ¿Hace programas con el público, talles?
Como estaba diciendo la señorita aquí, nosotros tenemos diferentes clases que ofrecemos sobre educación. Recientemente hemos ido a varias escuelas y también ofrecemos esos servicios en español para que nosotros podamos ofrecerlo en el idioma español y al público latino. Tenemos un programa, varios programas que hacemos educando en cómo proteger tus hijos, y también tenemos otras clases donde ellos pueden venir, que pueden saber y escuchar testimonios de otras personas que han sido víctimas del abuso sexual, y también cómo ellos pueden platicar y empezar a comunicar entre ellos para que se apoyen uno a otro.
Chief, what programs do we offer in the school district for community or schools?
So because we're a police department inside of a school district, we understand the educational component in our district. And so our officers are more than just law enforcement officers. We're teachers. And so one of our responsibilities is to educate. And so we provide educational presentations to our students, to our staff members, to various PTA organizations that would like to have them, community organizations, and we'll go out and we'll teach on any topic, including child abuse, signs of child abuse, and we try to work with the center when those occur so that we can kind of collaborate with one another so that we can provide the best information possible. But because we're a school district police department and we're in schools, we know that our priority is to help educate. And so we provide educational presentations to our student and staff on various topics, including this one.
Because we have other programs that really helps the kids and their parents. With prevention with drugs and all that.
Oh, we do presentations.
Yeah.
We do presentations on drug awareness,
Yeah.
on gang awareness, on social media awareness, because social media has really exploded over the last few years. And so we really target our parents in those conversations because our parents need to be aware about social media and how the students use social media and who contacts them.
Right.
And you know, when you tie that into child predators, we want our parents to be aware that students need to be careful on what they post because when they post information, these child predators can see what they like.
Here you go with social media.
Right? We can see what they like, and then the predator sees what they like and how to approach them. And then parents also need to be aware that when their children use cell phones have location services on them that automatically
Did y'all know
tell.
that? There you go. We all know that, right?
That automatically tell predators and other people on the other end of social media where exactly you're located.
And it happens everywhere. It happens in our community, at church, schools, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. So people say, well, it's happening in this organization. No, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And you know, I believe they know who's aware, has the awareness tools, who doesn't, and they target that individual.
Right.
And the long process of the therapy, and we'll talk about our next segment, the clinical part, is the therapy. You know, I'll share with the audience the long therapy that I have that, and that's why I said the show, I take it with heart because we got to break it. We got to break it today, not mañana, hoy. Al abrir nuestro cerebro, educar nosotros, el abuso sexual que nos lo roban nuestros hijos. Y aquí estamos nosotros para tener una plática, una cultura, aquí vamos a romper la cultura, que vamos a tener una comunicación importante para nuestras familias. We got to educate our kids. Like I say there, Chief, we're the driver of our own bus, of our own child.
Right.
And so we will pick in those stops who's coming in that bus stop as a passengers, either good or not. If not, we don't need that.
Right.
But those predators know, as today, they're probably listening right now on TV, say, oh, well, guess what? We're here. We want our community back, and we're going to get you one way or the other. Right. Anything you want to share, anything with the center before we get to a closure?
Well, I just want to tag on to what you just said. By talking about it and using platforms like this, what we're doing is saying that we're an aware community. We are proactive in the protection of children, and that's going to be a less likely environment that a predator is going to want to walk into.
How many years?
So the center was incorporated in 1989, and we served our first client in 91. So we just celebrated our 25th anniversary.
Yeah, there you go. Good. Unas últimas palabras.
Yo personalmente me gustaría que los latinos supieran más sobre el Centro de Protección para Niños. Estamos para apoyarlos y ayudarlos si ellos están pasando por una crisis donde sus hijos han pasado el abuso sexual y en otros abusos, y estamos para servir la comunidad.
Gracias. Any last words, Chief?
These are important topics, and it's just one of a variety, a vast array of topics that we are always concerned about with our children. But the bottom line is that of any crisis that there is, the communication is the starting point. If you communicate with your children daily, if you're a part of their, and I don't want to sound like we have bad parents,
right.
but we get busy in our lives, and we have a tendency not to go as in-depth as we should with our children. Take a few extra minutes a day. Get those conversations in with your children. Know more about what they do. Know more about with their friends. Know more about where they're going, who they see, who they talk to during the day. Be very interested in those adults that are around them so that you know that they're safe during the day.
Well, folks, there you are, the message for today. No more secrets. Ahora el mensaje es no más secretos. Si se quedan con nosotros, regresamos ahorita. Primero vamos a hacer un anuncio. Pase este año, fuimos el show on the road. Ahorita regresamos para el siguiente programa. Vamos a hablar con nuestros consejeros como los warning signs que vimos en inglés, las señas para entender más. Seguimos. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kate, thank you so much. Chiefs, welcome, and thank you again for
Thank you
being
for
here.
having us.
And Eusebia, thank you so much. Un aplauso para los invitados. Gracias. Welcome to Healthy Minute, brought to you by Sendero. Today we'll talk about washing our hands and why is it important. A, stop the germs. B, stay healthy. C, we succeed in school. After all, we're the driver of our health. Hey guys, good to see you. Wait a minute. Are we forgetting something? We gotta wash our hands. Turn around.
Soap and water, soap and water, soap and water, soap and water. Wash your hands with soap and water. Wash your hands with soap and water. Faucet on, water flows. Get it nice and warm. Then grab that soap, lather up, scrub up to your arms. Count to 10, count again. Keep those bubbles showing. When you're done, rinse them off. Time to dry and go. If you're washing them, you're gonna keep the germs away. If you're washing them, you're gonna keep the germs away. Soap and water's gonna help you keep the germs away. If you're washing them, you're gonna keep the germs away. Away, hey, 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 hey. Away, hey, hey, hey. Away, hey, hey.
Welcome to the Eagle Talk Show. Next segment, No More Secrets. Bienvenidos al show, the Eagle Talk Show, No Más Secretos. Before we start, you know we have a book club now, so if you go to our website, www.eagletalkshow, or call us, 512-841-4600, it'll be on the screen. We're reading a book. This book is interesting. It's about breaking the secrets. It's about therapy, art therapy. So this month we're going to read that. So if you need a copy of this, you call us. Welcome to the next show. No More Secrets. It's a pleasure introducing our guest here, Dr. Nelson from Project Insight. Thank you. Sheila Morataya, Therapists-Sheila, therapist. Welcome. Share with us, what is Project Insight? What does it do to the community?
Well,
Dr.
Project
Nelson?
Insight was started in 2004 by a gentleman named Micah Lee Ariano in the Rio Grande Valley, and it was founded as a 501c3, and it is to empower individuals to promote their body, their mind, and spirit through creative healing and educational tools.
And that's what the topic today, because we have
Exactly
the
right.
program in South Texas that is now reaching everywhere, educating school districts.
Exactly, and the veterans, and many, many, many groups.
And the topic today, because we work with those trauma centers, especially with sexual abuse,
Yes.
to educate those clinicians to find methods of therapy that is very important. Sheila, como terapista, ¿qué hace usted a la comunidad?
Les ayudo definitivamente a sobrepasar el trauma que les ha causado ese abuso, especialmente desde una voz que también vivió ese abuso.
Okay.
Y definitivamente no minimizar ningún tipo de abuso sexual del que hayamos sido sujetos en la infancia.
Sí, eso. Elba, ¿qué es Project Insight?
Project Insight es una organización que es no nutritiva que enseña por educación creativa a los individuales, les da poder emocional, físico y educacional.
Gracias. Dr. Nelson, what are the signs for child abuse that we as parents, educators need to be aware?
You know, one of the biggest signs is a child who certainly has a lot of emotional outbursts. All of a sudden, they're just falling apart. They're having trouble sleeping. They're afraid to be alone. They're they may be wetting the bed. They may be very defiant, very closed down, not wanting to communicate. It is a very, very indicative of a child who is just isolating and also is having trouble in school. Their grades are going down. And, you know, you just need to look for those
So as
signs.
a parent, we need to be just aware of the surroundings of the child.
It's
And
just
like our
awareness.
other segment with Chief Eric Mendez from Austin Independent School District, you just having building those communication, those
Exactly.
conversations. And I think our society's disconnecting somehow. We need to come back when you have, family time, dinner. You have those conversations. How do we approach a child? Not like, how was your day? What's another way we can approach a child?
You know, what I like to do is I like to have a child draw because kids love to draw.
Yeah.
And we have a program in the schools called Creative Journal for Schools. And we first we give them a prompt, and then we ask them to draw about whatever the prompt is about. How do I feel today? So they just may take a black crayon and just scribble. And then we ask them to write about that scribbling and explain what it means to them. And so if a parent would sit down with a child, I know it takes time, but this is called bonding and communicating with a child. Because I know when my children were small and they would come home, I'd say, how did it go today? Fine, good, okay.
Yeah.
And that's all I got out of them. But as I learned later, that a really great form of communication is the creative journaling that we do, and being able to have fun about it.
Bring that inner child back and to
And
speak.
you journal with the child, and you both write about how you feel, and you exchange that information.
Elba, explain to us.
Okay, lo que hacemos, lo que recomendamos es a tener un diario con el niño y decirle a su hijo, dibuja cómo te sientes hoy, por ejemplo, y después el niño escribe cómo se siente. Es mucho más fácil si el niño dibuja primero a describir de qué se trata su dibujo. Es una manera que puedes abrir la comunicación con su hijo.
Sheila, ¿cómo nos vamos a comunicar con estos niños?
Yo quiero agregar algo muy importante
Sí.
a lo que ellas han dicho, porque como niña que fue abusada, una de las grandes señales que tienen que ver en sus hijos es que si ese niño muestra una conducta outgoing, es alegre, no le tiene miedo a las personas y de repente ese niño se vuelve tímido, se vuelve callado y le tiene miedo a las personas, tienen que llevarlo inmediatamente a que alguien lo revise, porque eso fue lo que me pasó a mí. Me volví una niña extremadamente tímida, extremadamente miedosa, y hasta el día de hoy, cada vez que yo tengo que tener apariciones públicas, hablar enfrente de la gente, me tiembla todo el cuerpo, pero me tiembla todo el cuerpo por esos toques de los que fui abusada de niña. También una de las señales bien claras es que tenemos que desconfiar tanto del padre como de la madre, porque si esas personas no están educadas cognitivamente, han sufrido algún abuso en la infancia, se pueden convertir en abusadores. En mi caso personal, nunca permití que ni siquiera mi esposo bañara a mi hija. Tan comprometida estaba yo con que mi hija iba a ser una niña floreciente, una niña sana. Entonces, ¿cómo podemos nosotros a nuestros hijos protegerlos y educarlos? Lo que dijo la doctora, observándolos, viendo desde pequeños cómo es la personalidad de ese niño, cómo es su sonrisa, cómo brillan sus ojos cuando miran a otras personas. Porque si nosotros conocemos perfectamente cómo es nuestro niño, te aseguro que vamos a adivinar que al niño le está pasando algo. Sí, hay un cambio. Así.
Y si no está uno, como dice, alerta.
Exactamente.
No está enfocándose una plática. We're not aware of a conversation as we build conversation with our kids at home. There's signals. And because we're busy with our own personal life sometimes, we understand that. But I believe we choose to have a child, we choose to have a family. That's our obligation, to have that connection with our child. That's part of the dream of education, because that trauma also hinders the potential for that child's doing academically. So as parents, we need to engage and listen to those signals, because when the child, she explains to, and Sheila explains to us, the child's real happy and all this shine, and then somehow one day, that glow is not there. Did you listen to that signal? What happened? Maybe it could have not been sexually, it could be something else, but did you have a conversation? And that's what it is.
Because shame is not normal in a child. Like the girl here say, we're not born being shamed. So that is built up when you are a victim of an abuser. So shame is, no, es que los niños hispanos así son
Sí.
tímidos, no, mentira. Todos los niños tienen que volar.
Sí.
Hemos sido creados somos seres abiertos
Sí.
para comunicarnos los unos con los otros. Por eso estoy tan agradecida de esta oportunidad, porque entre hispanos, lo mismo hablar de la masturbación.
Sí.
¿Verdad? ¿Por qué sucede
Una
eso?
plática,
¿Para
porque el
qué
cuerpo.
sucede eso?
Y si
Esto es tu vagina,
Ajá.
no es la cosita,
Ajá.
se llama vagina, esto se llama pene, no es el pitillo,
Yeah,
you
ajá.
know? Y allí
Sí,
nadie
cierto, ¿verdad?
te debe
Que
de
no
tocar.
es tabú, no, que ahorita me van a
Nadie
hablar,
te debe
ahorita me van a
tocar
hablar
ahí.
al estudio, pero está bien.
Exacto.
A romper, it's taboo, and I'm saying they're probably going to call us, and that's so fine, I could deal with that, because we got to break it, because it comes from issues, fear. Let's not have those conversations. Well, when we don't have the conversation, the chief said it very clear, and then Kate made it very clear. If they know that you're not educating your child. The perpetrator knows that. I experienced that as a child, being raped when I was 6 years old, all the way to 10 years old. My mom didn't know to take me to doctors because I urinated. Oh, it's a bladder infection. Until I became to 15, had a conversation in therapy, and realized that this is what happened. I blamed myself because my body responds. Why does the body respond, Dr. Nelson?
Well, your body responds because it knows and it's shutting down and it's trying to give signals. And so when you urinate, certainly that was a way to protect you
Right.
from when you were going through a situation, to ward off someone because, you'd soiled yourself and nobody wanted your lights to come around.
And my
that.
brain
So
was
that
going.
was your protective
yeah,
mechanism.
and my brain goes.
That's all it was.
If the brain goes, feel goes, but then I couldn't respond, yell, because the perpetrator was saying, if you do this, the consequences will happen. This, and so the mind goes as a child back and forth, and dealing with 10 years of therapy, then created a nonprofit because I'm a survivor. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. And so providing those tools to the community and say there's trauma in our kids, in our schools, in our community, what can we do? So we form it with clinicians, with therapists, and they trained schools, clinicians. You can do this program because I believe when you draw, you express more, bring the issue to the surface, and you have a clinician or a therapist and work on that. Because 10 years is a lot of therapy, but I'm grateful because later on I learned to love myself. I blamed myself for so many years. I didn't have healthy relationships. I blamed myself so much. And so I take this topic, this show, seriously because we today, not tomorrow, will make a change for the child.
Exactly.
Comparta con nosotros cuando ves un cliente. ¿Qué le recomiendan a los padres?
Mira, lo primero es que we're not just only survivors, we are guerreros.
Sí,
You know, nosotros somos guerreros después de haber sobrevivido esto. Cuando un niño o una niña viene a mí, mis casos son más de niñas, lo primero que yo trabajo con ellos es en la vergüenza.
Okay.
La vergüenza y el miedo. Limpiar esa área. Will Good Hunting has a scene that is very, very good, that it say it was not your fault. Cuando el terapista le hace ver al niño, no fue tu culpa. Entonces, esa área, creo que, y desde mi punto de vista como experiencia, lo que más a mí me costó vencer fue la culpa que yo sentía y la adicción a la masturbación que yo tuve por muchos tiempos. Porque tú le preguntas a ella por qué yo respondía,
Sí.
no sé si le estás preguntando por qué respondías.
El cuerpo.
El cuerpo.
Sí.
Y el cuerpo responde porque somos animales con instinto. Es un instinto, somos instintivos, fuimos creados para la relación. Entonces, esta es la razón, porque aunque ni siquiera de niños lo sabemos, estamos creados para la respuesta. Y ahí
Sí.
es donde se crean las confusiones en nuestras neuronas, porque cognitivamente hay una edad para conocer nuestra sexualidad.
Gracias. Voy a ir al público. ¿Alguien levante la mano si tiene una pregunta?
Mi pregunta es para prevenir. Por ejemplo, si ha pasado un caso dentro de la comunidad, la familia o la escuela con algún niño, si nosotros podremos hablar con nuestros propios hijos acerca de un caso, no especificando la persona, pero diciendo, ¿por qué quiero que tú tengas cuidado? ¿Por qué te estoy diciendo estas cosas? Porque no quiero que te suceda a ti. ¿Se puede hablar de esto con los niños? ¿A qué edad? ¿Es diferente entre niña o niño?
Con los niños se puede hablar a cualquier edad y no es necesario que usted utilice un caso para hablarles. A la niña, por ejemplo, desde que está muy pequeñita, póngala frente al espejo y asómbrese frente a ella y dígale, wow, esta eres tú, te llamas Susanita. Y Susanita tiene estos ojos y esta parte de aquí de Susanita se llama vagina y Susanita nunca dejará que nadie, absolutamente nadie, ni papá le toque su vagina. Y Susanita tiene estos pechos y estos pechos son para dar vida, para que otros niños, cuando Susanita sea madre, ella pueda amamantar a sus propios hijos. Y a manera que el niño cognitivamente vaya evolucionando, a los 7 años tú ya vas a tener una conversación con tu niña y vas a tener un libro como estos y se lo vas a enseñar y le vas a mostrar sus diferentes partes. Lo mismo exactamente para el niño, porque al niño hay que protegerlo tanto como se protege a la niña. Por eso es que más varones son abusados, porque a los varones los tendemos a descuidar y no pensamos que son la misma dignidad, la misma belleza, la misma delicadeza que tiene una niña. Entonces, a los 7 años a los 11 años otra conversación, a los 13 años otra conversación, a los 15 años otra conversación, antes de que se vayan a college otra conversación, porque watch the professors, the teachers in college, you know, nunca pensar que el niño ya está listo cognitivamente.
Con la comunidad.
Y con la comunidad, el público. Y a los 21 años, la última conversación, ahora you are in your own, you know the dignity of your own body, you know now how to take care of your body. Now we're breaking the taboos and we are building and raising new generations with knowledge.
Un aplauso, ¿verdad? Yeah. Oh my God. What she shared with us, Dr. Nelson, she shared with us at what level, and she talked different levels.
Exactly right. As a small child, we address an issue very different, but we don't mask it. When they ask a question, they want an answer. And also, it's very important that we are able, even in the college, when we learn how to journal, I really believe in keeping a journal because it's a way to put out our feelings. And when you meet somebody and you have a suspicion about them, we train to use both the right and the left hand using dominant and non-dominant hand to journal.
Why is it important to use both?
Well, because the right brain is your intuition, your higher power, your creativity.
Right.
And you get that sixth sense, that sense about this doesn't feel right. But if you really want to be sure to journal, ask the question with your dominant hand and answer with the non-dominant hand. Does this person feel safe or does this situation feel right? Dominant hand. With the non-dominant, allow the answer to come. And it will never be wrong because your intuition is always right. If you smell a rat, it is a rat.
It's a rat, right?
Okay.
Elba, explain that to us. Yeah, we smell a lot of rats, I know, in our society.
El diario creativo, usamos las dos manos. Usamos una mano para la mano que usa siempre para escribir, para hacer una pregunta. Y la otra mano que no usas, que no es dominante, para contestar. Porque en ese lado de tu cuerpo te alcanza el otro lado de tu cerebro. El lado derecho de tu cerebro son los instintos. Y siempre necesitas escuchar a tus instintos porque siempre son correctos. Y te va a venir la respuesta de tu mano que no usas siempre. Con arte, música y la otra mano. Estos son adultos que estamos hablando porque los niños ya están en su cerebro derecho.
Okay.
Nacemos todos con ese lado del cerebro, usando son las emociones y el instinto y el juicio de
Juicio.
uno.
Gracias. Dr. Nelson, why is it so important to ask our officials from school districts or communities that they are doing educational tools to help our kids in our schools?
Right. Well, there are tools out there.
Okay.
But I really believe that many school districts, one, they're nervous about the topic,
Yeah.
so they avoid it,
Yeah.
which is the most damaging thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
The other really hold back is to really get them into doing some creative
And you're
journaling.
sharing some books that
Yes,
you
these are by Dr.
co-authored, Dr.
Lucia
yeah.
Capicchione from California. She's written
Therapist and a counselor and clinician.
exactly, and an art therapist. In art therapy, if you read the National Geographic January edition, talks about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's exactly what happens to sexual survivors. Doing the activities, they're doing mask making now with these veterans coming back from all of this terrible bombing. You know, they look fine on the outside, but their minds. And this is the same that's happening to our children.
So
in
what
the
are we
schools.
doing in schools? I mean,
so
I know
we're
Project
using
Insight.
the Creative Journal Expressive Arts, and we do a wonderful activity. And each day, the teacher will use a prompt, something I'd like to have. So the child would draw that, and they would write about what they want to have. Very simple. It's at least 3 times a week. It's 15 to 20 minutes a day. And the children open up, they begin to communicate. Teachers do this as well, because teachers are role modeling for students. And the beautiful part about this, they have volunteer sharing. So the children and the teachers share. And teachers then put these books away safely, because the children learn about boundaries and what their secrets are staying here. No teacher ever reads these. And what we're finding through a study through University of Texas Pan American is when they did testing, not one child went to the nurse's office. And in the Edinburgh ISD, they've had something called vomit buckets, where during testing the children will go and they can vomit in the bucket. And this was the first year in the Jefferson Elementary.
Because you
no
applied the
child,
program with
because they were using the program.
Amazing.
Their
Wow.
test scores went up. There was less absence and tardy. This program is a beautiful way to get kids to communicate.
And these are tools that some clinicians in school setting that get training through y'all and use those tools to, you know, kind of the challenges that we have in different schools, you know, with the trauma with the kids, and that information being
This
utilized.
begins opening up
So
communication.
where can I, if right now a counselor and a school with us, or anybody in the community, a therapist, clinic, because we have clinicians here in the audience too.
Exactly.
Where would they go? What website would they go to?
They can go to www.lucia, LUCIAC.com.
And we'll put that on the screen. How long is
Beautiful
the training?
There is a year-long certification program called Creative Journal Expressive Arts. And there's people from all over the world that are trained and using this in all different avenues. But right now, where it should begin, the most important place is with our children. Because it's the way the tree goes. If we give them a good foundation, then they'll be able to help their children. But we have a lot of unconscious adults running around. And also we have a lot of adults that this has happened to them. And it's like, well, it happened to me, so this is just the way it is. And we've got to break that cycle.
Sheila, ¿qué recomienda usted para los oficiales de la escuela o terapista? ¿Qué recomienda usted?
Para los de la escuela, que conozcan a sus alumnos también, que vean en cada niño alguien que es unique and irreplaceable. To really embrace the role of a teacher, to be, you know, that figure of protection. Entonces, si ellos se fijan en sus alumnos y los conoces, ellos también van a ver las señales. Y acerca de lo de la doctora decía, yo pongo a mis alumnos a hacer lo que se llama páginas de la mañana, en donde tú en la mañana te levantas inmediatamente y escribes durante 20 minutos, es escritura automática. Y eso puede aflorar mucha información de lo que se ha quedado en el subconsciente para que el niño o la persona o la mujer empiece su proceso de sanación. Quiero decir, es tan delicado que mi mamá fue abusada cuando ella era niña de los 9 a los 12 años de edad por otra mujer. y yo fui abusada por mi tía. Mi mamá acaba de romper el silencio conmigo. Tiene 74 años. ¿Y por qué lo rompió conmigo? Porque yo ahora hago todo esto for the people. So, if you are a mother or a parent that were abused, break the silence, please. Don't
Today.
keep it hidden.
Always.
Break it today. My daughter, she's 14, she's 17 years old. She knows I was abused. I told her when I was very little, when she was very little. So, entonces, mi mamá ahora está empezando a los 75 años su proceso de sanación. Y ella lo puede hacer perfectamente con esas páginas de la mañana. Entonces, estamos sanando la generación de mi mamá, mi generación, y posiblemente mi hija ya no hay necesidad de generación para sanar. Entonces, eso es lo que le indico yo a los maestros. Conozcan a sus niños y mírenlos como algo único e irrepetible dentro de sus classrooms.
If a parent, and lo puede explicar, what if a parent feels that they have personal been abused, what actions should take? Si un adulto se ha divorciado, ¿qué puede ser el programa o qué puede hacer ellos?
Un adulto se puede ayudar a sí mismo haciendo este diario creativo. Tocante sus emociones, puede sanar.
Gracias.
I think the most important thing I want to just jump in and say is that if you feel that you have been abused, you need to tell someone, and sometimes it's hard.
Having
tell it to your
conversations.
dog.
Yeah.
Start with your dog.
Yeah.
Tell a pet.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
start talking about it.
Unconditional love, there you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then begin building trust in yourself that what your story is important, and it's important for you to get help. So just get it out, because physical, a lot of times you'll go to the doctor and they can't find out what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
But it's an emotion, it's stuck in your body.
Right.
So if you're having migraines, constant migraines, or you're having some kind of physical problem, journal about that and just start getting it out, and then you can heal. But there are so many of us that are unhealed because we're holding secrets.
Yeah. Secrets.
And
So
you're
we gotta
saying,
break. That's today.
break it today.
Secret. Unas últimas palabras antes que cerramos, Sheila.
Alguien que ha sido abusado, never minimize your own abuse. Oh, they just touched me a little bit. Never do that. Because abuse is everything that attempts through your own dignity as a person, you know. So at the minute you feel shame, fearful, speak out.
Yeah.
Do not keep secrets.
That's right.
Vamos a cerrar. Unas últimas palabras.
Unas últimas palabras. Sí, siempre deben de decirle a alguien con quien tienes confianza. ¿Okay? Y sí, es importante no minimizar lo que te pasó.
Gracias. Last words, Dr. Lasso. We're going to close in a couple of seconds. Last words.
Just keep it out in the public. Keep it open. And also, please, as parents, these cell phones, and you're on the cell phone, I see it in the stores, and you're ignoring your children. And there has to be a time for everything. And if a child feels ignored, then they're going to keep it to themselves, and game over.
So listen to your child at all times. Parents, audience, everybody, thank you. Please, un aplauso. I give them a round of applause to our guests. Remember, you are the driver of your child's bus. Look at the Facebook. We'll see you next month. Gracias, Sendero. También Nyquist, todos los que nos apoyan a nosotros. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You are the driver of your child's bus. We'll see you.